in the morning when she sends out the announcements of the day's class. If you click right on the Zoom link and it comes right to me.
Okay. Feel better. I look better with this.
I said
That's for sure. That's for sure.
Okay. All right, I'm going to start the days of learning as we gather. Year of learning, friends of Mal Skotsky, Moshe Zelig, Ben Mordechai, Martin Lippman, and family in memory of his wife, Malka Chana Bat Pinchas, friends of Herb Jeremias, Tzvi Ben Zev, friends of Sam Coleman, Shmuel Ben Yaakov, friends of Gideon Lazinski, Mordechai Shlomo Ben Meir, Bella and David Adler in memory of her father, Eliyahu Ben Yosef Cohen. Those who were inspired by our Rebbetzin Emerita, Sheila Shapiro, Sarah Stamalka Bat Mishum Yisachar, Gail and Leslie Kaplan in memory of their parents, Mushka Sprinza Bat Yosef Chaim Vachava, Chana Bat Moshe Eliezer Vachana, Pesha Bat Shmuel Yitzchak Halevi Vitzipora, Yisr Ben Yoel Moshe HaKohen Vachana, Rexford Friends of Gladys Sherman, Gutta Bat Meir, Michael Klein and friends of Judah Klein, Yehuda Tzvi Ben Chaim, Marcia Bronner in memory of her husband, Rav Yerachmiel Ben Shmuel. A month of learning by Charlie Gelfenstein in memory of his mother, Dacia Gilbad Meir Halevi. Charlie Gelfenstein again in memory of his father, Meir Ben Yaakov. Ruvain and Susan Podolsky in memory of his mother, Frela Bashraga Feivel. A week of learning by Marcia Federbush in memory of her father, Menachem Mendel Ben Shlomo, friends of Bernie Krutz on the occasion of his second bar mitzvah. That must have been the event yesterday. Okay. Today is the, what's today's date? It's English date.
I'll tell you. I have to watch. I got my Friday Kislev. 17th.
Okay, there are no individual days of learning today. Okay. May Shabbos have an aliyah, Frank Raphael Velti Yeshua Shematliah, and Chobani Israel good bench.
Oh my. Okay. So looking at we're gonna be starting Al Piadim at the bottom, 5 lines from the bottom on your dollar on the day. But look back at the Mishnah for a minute at the top of the page. Look at the Mishnah, and we have a similar problem. The starts and stops are all a problem in our Mishnah. We said essentially a run-on from the last Mishnah. Look, you're going to be responsible. We said Shum Kesef, Shabbat Kesef, Bifnei Beistin, Al Piadim. You notice an interesting point. Look, it says Shum Kesef, Shabbat Kesef, Bifnei Beistin, the Al Piadim. You see a vav in there? You notice a vav? Yeah, add. What's the add doing there? Okay. Now, interestingly enough, our printer on the bottom, what does it say? Al Piadim. No vav. No vav. But let's say the vav's there. So take a look. So we had Shum Kesef, Shabbat Kesef, Bifnei Beistin. So the vav is kind of a giveaway that the Al Piadim could really be what? Separate. And therefore what? So instead of reading Shum Kesef, Shabbat Kesef, Bifnei Beistin, Al Piadim, B'nei Chorim, B'nei Bris, which is a whole list, it could be really what? It's really what? The Al Piadim, B'nei Chorim, B'nei Bris. You see what I'm saying? So that goes together. How do you put it together? Same thing as before. Smoking, no smoking, same over here. So is it Shum Kesef, Shabbat Kesef, B'nei Beistin, Al Piadim, B'nei Chorim? No, it's Al Piadim, B'nei Chorim, B'nei Bris. You see what's going on? So it's a little bit of a toss-up. So now let's take a look. Let's look at the bottom. Our cryptogram Mishnah, Al Piadim. Now back to the way it says Al Piadim. We have to what? It has to be in front of Adim. So what is this? The Gemara says here, this is really referring to this problem. Remember we discussed, we said in the past, that we have a rule that we learned earlier already. The Mishnah taught us that a knas is when a person is not paying to repay what was taken, but paying something, it's a fine. He's paying more than what was taken, less than what was taken, or a set amount. That's called a fine. And we learned that a person doesn't pay a fine by his own admission. Where do we learn it? Where do we learn it from? So we learned it from the pasuk, because the pasuk says, when it came to the payment of double payment, so it says, "Are Yeshiyun Elohim?" It's where the judges. That really word Elohim is for the judges, where the judges will find him guilty. Yishalim Shnaim, he has to pay 2. He has to pay the fine of double payment. So we see what? When do you pay double payment? When the judges find him guilty, but when he finds himself guilty, when he admits by himself, you don't pay the fine. That's the source that we don't pay a person doesn't pay a fine by his own admission. He only pays a fine. Now, the truth is that later on we have that everyone agrees. Our Mishnah tells we know that, and it says later in the Mishnah also. Later on it says in Mefurish we learn afterwards. Now the only thing is like this, that the previous Mishnah defines it. The later Mishnah tells us the rule. Now we actually have a machlokus later. Yeah, we have a machlokus later. What happens if he admits? We know if a guy comes and admits, he doesn't pay. What if he admits and witnesses come? So that's a machlokus between Rav and between Shmuel. Shmuel says, listen, the whole point is what? The when doesn't based in take a fine from a guy when he admits by himself, when the basin has no recourse except his admission. Therefore, if he admitted but witnesses came afterwards, still doesn't matter. That's still what he is still now. He's going to have to pay the fine because we have witnesses that he has to pay the fine.
Even if they come after
Right. So that's the opinion of Shmuel. We're going to learn it later. But the opinion of Rav is no. Rav says no. Admission itself automatically exempts him. It has nothing to do with that. No, is it that the basin can't find out, or no, it's that he admitted. So according to Rav, the fact that he admitted, regardless of the fact that we can find out later, doesn't make a difference. According to Shmuel, as long as we have Adim, that his admission has no meaning. So now we want to say Al Pi Adim that what he's going to have to pay according to Adim. So he said, the mother of Knas, the only must we say, why say no? Only with Adim. What's only with Adim? Must be a order. As opposed to what? As he's admitting. Instead of the witnesses, saying that he did it, he said that he did it. That's how we're learning the Mishnah. Okay, when it was the mother of Knas for Chakach Ba Adim. Okay, Shupater. That's coming to exclude a case where he admitted that he has to pay the fine. Okay, and afterwards the witnesses came. In such a case, she's Pater. I said, slow down. 1 second. That's a machlokas. You just read the Mishnah according to Shmuel. He says, that's very good according to the opinion who says that if a guy admits to a fine by and witnesses came after Potter, he's still Potter. That's good. That's good according to whom? That's good according to Rav. Pardon me. That's good according to Rav. You read the Mishnah like you read. If I said back, you said like Rav. But according to Shmuel's opinion, that if a guy admits to a class and afterwards the witnesses come that he's chayav, Michael and Meimer, how are you going to explain the Mishnah? We're stuck. So the answer is now you have to read the Mishnah differently, like I did with you before. You know what? Instead of reading a run-on list, Shum Kesef, Shabbat Kesef, etc., etc. No. It's a new category. The Al Pi Eidim b'nei Chorim b'nei Bris. And really, that's how you have to read. According to Shmuel, you have to read like this. It can't be because now why? Now 1 second. Why can't 1 second? Why we said it can't be? It can't be that he admitted and afterwards they came. 1 second. How about we admitted nobody came? Why don't you just read it that way? The answer is because we learned that later. That's so obvious. The Mishnah can't talk about it. There's no need for it. So we can't offer that possibility. We can't offer it because we already learned it. It's obvious. So therefore, what? So then, according to Shmuel, how are we going to learn? The answer is Sefer Tzrichale. You're really learning like this, like I just mentioned to you. You group it the second half together. In other words, what you have to read? What the Sefer Tzrichale? It's Eidim who are b'nei Chorin and b'nei Bris. It's witnesses who are free men and not slaves, and witnesses who are b'nei Bris. In the covenant, they're Jewish and they're not non-Jews. Now, b'nei Chorin, the Meuti Avodim. B'nei Chorin free means what? To come to exclude a slave. B'nei Bris, the Meuti of the Chacham. B'nei Bris is coming to exclude Goyim. Now, you think they're the same, but they're not the same. So there's 2 points. Number one. 1 second. Why on earth would I think in the whole Torah Kula, you can't, witnesses have to be Jewish? What are we talking about? This whole discussion doesn't make any sense. In the whole Torah Kula, witnesses have to be Jewish. Why are you coming to tell me now that slaves and Goyim are out? Everybody knows that. The answer is because here we have a real good reason to believe that by Nezikin the rabbis believe the slave and believe the non-Jew. Why? Because the norm is where's the oxen and the oxen goring each other. It's taking place. That's what the slaves are doing their jobs. The slaves, the shepherds. We're not going to find good witnesses. So maybe the rabbis, in order to keep the world going, really, maybe they decree that even though everywhere in the Torah a slave and a non-Jew can't be an aid, maybe over here the rabbis put it in. They're saying that's how the Rambam learns. Maybe over here, Dafka here, the rabbis do a lot of things in order to make the society function and commerce work. So maybe here they did it. And the answer is that we don't. Okay, no, you might have thought that the rabbis now, but why did the rabbis why do you have to teach me twice? If the rabbis rejected a slave, they rejected a guy. If they rejected a guy, they rejected a slave. Why do you have to teach me both?
We believe the guy wants to convey this that a woman's husband died.
1 second. That's not on this page. It's way too out of the subject. Okay.
Yes.
No, it's not on the subject. Okay. Now, but see, I don't deal with anything. We have to understand the page, my son. We don't do that. Okay. Now, um, uh, you know, Rabosai, if you would, I want to explain you something that's very important. I want to explain you a very important point. And I actually want to give a different class in addition to this one. Most people don't succeed because they become content focused instead of discussion focused, and you can't win that way. You'll have to be a savant. You'll just have to memorize everything without any understanding. The way that the Torah teaches is by having a discussion, and you follow the argument, and the facts come along. The facts come along with it. And later I'll show you. You should know that when I was a kid, I spent 14 years learning the science of Gemara, learning methodology, how to do it. After 14 years, I went to really, person was like one of the Gedolei Ador. I went to Zalman Nechemi. Zalman Nechemi was a genius. You understand? If he spoke for 60 minutes, people were in shock. The people had a hard time because he never repeated himself. So when I came, I was the new kid on the block. I was a little kid. Don't worry, I won't be late. It'll be fun. I was the new kid on the block. I was loud. I was an American. Too loud, too young, too everything. I was all wrong. The guys there were all yekas and old. They were yekas and old. Both. You understand? I was a real sore thumb. I was the sorest thumb you could be. So I got there, and these guys were very learned guys, big time. They're older than me, and they were very good guys, really wonderful guys. And they used to have one guy transcribe every word that Rabbi Goldberg would say. And then they would sit every day afterwards and review the shiur word by word by word. Every word that he said, they reviewed. And I thought this was wonderful. And on the other hand, myself, when I came, I used to, after he finished the shiur, I would stand up in the middle of the base medrash, and I would fight every point that he said. They want to throw me out like I was an apikoros. Anyway, when I saw that they reviewed every word of the shiur, I was very inspired. I thought it was beautiful. And I did another very American thing, and I invited myself in to the group without an invitation. So that was enough. So now I was a real sore thumb. I invited myself in, and I chewed gum. Everything was wrong. Anyway, I come in there, and these guys are really good guys. They're going over word by word, and they kind of come to a place where they don't understand. So I said, I'll tell you what he meant. They said, what do you mean? I said, this is what he meant. So they said, how do you know? I said, because I follow the discussion, and in the discussion, there's no other role for this line except to do this job. It's impossible. It must be only this. So he used to return later at night, so that when they came in late at night, the oldest guy ran over, and he asked him the question. He comes back with his notebook, he looks at me, and says, how did you know? I said, I told you, because I study the method. I said, and it has no other function except for this. And that happened several times in a row. All of a sudden, they decide the American's not so bad. And so they decided not such a bad thing. And what I want to tell you is, if you follow the discussion, there was another Gadol Yerushalayim. His name was Naftali Frank. Naftali Frank was a Chassid. I'm not Chassidish. And also, so not only is he Chassidish, I'm not Chassidish, but in Israel, the Chassidim, also in America, the Chassidim like to speak only Yiddish. They don't even like Hebrew. They like Yiddish. So I used to go to his shiur. Now, my father, of blessed memory, spoke a world famous Yiddish. He was famous for his beauty. But I'm an American, you understand? And they told secrets in the house in Yiddish. I didn't care. You understand? I learned German before I learned Yiddish. I learned German. Yes, I knew most of what I know for Yiddish. I know because I learned German. Yeah, because I learned German. Whatever. But anyway, so don't ask me now. I don't remember. I learned it when I was a kid. Anyway, but the thing is, so I used to go to Rabbi Frankel's shiur. It was in Yiddish. So whenever I had a problem with what he was saying, I would ask a question, but I spoke in Hebrew. I can't speak in Yiddish. I spoke in Hebrew, but he would always answer in Yiddish. I would speak in Hebrew. The class was in Yiddish. I would ask questions in Hebrew. He would answer in Yiddish. No, I came for a number of weeks to this shiur, and one night after this shiur, all the Hasidim were standing around. I'm talking with them, and all of a sudden they realize that I don't speak Yiddish. So they're in shock. How could it be? It's clear that I'm involved in an active discussion. I'm in active discussion in the class, and I don't speak the language. What's going on? I said, how's it possible? So I explained to them that I'm a student of method, and you study the methodology of argumentation. I said, because I'm familiar with the material, I always know what's going on, because even if I don't understand a word that he said, it doesn't matter, because the structure of the discussion demands, look, it's either a duck or a bucket. I'll find out later. It doesn't even matter. It's a bucket or a duck, whatever it is, I'll find out later. But I really understand the point. And this is something I want you to understand. If you put your focus, that's what you have to hear. This is for you what you're asking. If you try to get your information, that's why you notice we don't hear. The Gemara is not written like the Rambam. That's why they didn't like the Rambam when they came out. Don't worry, we'll finish. Here, that's why they rebelled against the Rambam. The Rambam, he violated the entire Jewish tradition. Our tradition is to teach by dialogue, which is the Gemara. The Rifts continued it, the Rushka, everybody. All of a sudden, the Rambam goes out and takes and writes like a Greek. That's why they're upset with him. All of a sudden, he's writing exposition. That's why they flipped out. Am I communicating? Yes, they couldn't take it. What happened? You're writing like the Goyim. Now, the answer is that the Western form of presentation has very good mileage. You understand? You put everything into categories. You say this is the rule, and there's this category, and there's this subcategory, etc., etc. It works, but it doesn't work as well as this. This is the Jewish tradition. Was not like the Greek tradition. Our way works better, which is what? We put people into a dialogue, and all the information comes in the context of understanding and discussion. So then all the facts come out. Yes, then all the facts come out by the exercising of your understanding. You see what I'm saying? And you don't have to memorize. You don't have to memorize. By the time you learn the Gemara a bunch of times and discuss it, the facts you become agile in the facts because it fits in the context. And that's why it's so important. So here, that's why I'm stubborn about it, but I want you to follow. The most important thing is what's on this page. If you follow what's on this page and tomorrow what's on the next page, then you know everything. I'll tell you one more thing and you'll understand what I'm saying. It's worth it. It's worth the time. Listen to this. One of our great modern writers was the Chayei Adam. He was known as the Chayei Adam, Rabbi Danzig. He was the Chayei Adam, the Chochmas Adam. He wrote incredible works of learning. And he wrote many introductions. And one of them, he tells this story. There was a guy, he goes out he wants to get a parnasa. So he learns to be a tailor. Listen to this, he learns to be a tailor. So he goes out, everything's good. He comes home to his hometown, he's ready to put up a shingle, Maisha Cohen, tailor. And then he says to himself, my whole career of tailoring is dependent upon needles. He says, I'm great, I know how to cut, I know how to sew, I know how to fix. He said, but I couldn't do a thing without a needle. I have no idea how to make a needle. If I didn't have a needle, my whole parnasa would be gone. How can I open up a shop and I don't know how to make a needle? So instead of putting up a shingle, he goes back to school, and he learns, metallurgy, whatever it is, to make needles, die casting, etc., etc. He comes back, he's really happy. Now he's going to put up a shingle, Maisha Cohen, tailor, metallurgist, die caster, and drill press, whatever it is, drill presser. Oh, next thing, next guy back, he says, wait a second. He says, my whole business is dependent on thread. He says, I don't know how to make threads. What's the kids? What happens? The guy never made a single suit. He goes back to learn this. It doesn't work that way. And the learning is organic. That's what I mentioned to you. How do we teach a Jewish child? How do you teach a kid to speak? Did you have a baby and get a grammar book and say, okay, now listen, this is a verb, this is a noun. Repeat after me. Verb, noun. You don't teach a kid to speak. What do? You talk in the house, and the kid starts to imitate the sound. You talk. He goes, oh, na 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 na. Eventually, he says words. He said the child learns in context. How do you kid teach about Judaism? He learns in context, and when they're little, we just put them in context. Later, when they're teenagers, we start to explain things to them. You know what I'm saying? So the thing is, so this way, the Gemara way was, the Gemara didn't do this by accident. Oh, let's correct it. Let's fix it up. No, let's organize it. No, this is organized. This is the way Jewish tradition was brought down because it works. If you study the dialogue and the dialectic and you pay attention and follow instructions, this is not a volunteer operation. This is an army. The Gemara says, do this. Make this statement. Listen to me. It's very important. Raise this difficulty. Well, forget it. Do what I'm telling you. Take this thought. Challenge it with this thought. Defend it with this thought. Go back and challenge the defense. Then defend the defense. Then challenge the defense of the defense. Do what I'm telling you. You'll know everything. Am I communicating? That's how Gemara works. Gemara is a computer program. Take a thought. Challenge it with not your question. My question. Challenge it with this thought, the one I told you to do. The rabbi says, challenge this thought with the thought I'm telling you. Then defend it with the thought I'm telling you. Then challenge it with the thought I'm telling you. You'll know the Torah. Am I communicating? This is how the rabbis passed on the law. This is not a historical document. Oh, let's see the interesting discussions they had. Excuse me, this is my class. This is the class. I'm teaching you Gemara. You'll never know Gemara without what I'm telling you. This is not a collection of historical discussions. Oh, it's interesting what the rabbi spoke about. Let's see what we can glean from it. Listen to me. I'm telling you, this is gold what I'm telling you. This is how you get the Torah. The rabbi said, listen to me. It's a set of instructions. Learn. You want to learn the Torah? Take the thought that I'm telling you, challenge it with the thought that I'm telling you, then defend it with the thought I'm telling you. Do what I'm showing you, and then you'll get everything. You see? And I wrote books. I want you to know. I don't know when. But this is me. This is my business. My whole life since I'm a kid. If you want, we can have everybody. Here. You're in a very intelligent group. Everybody here can learn the Shas. You can learn the post-game. You can learn everything. It's no problem. It's no problem. Only we don't have any dumb Jews. We only have smart Jews. It's easy. If you want, we can have a class in methodology. Everybody can learn it. We can learn Shulchan Aruch. You guys, we can learn Torah and post-game. No problem. No problem. You learn methodology. You learn everything, and then you could the art of deciphering the Torah. Everybody can have. It's made for everybody. It's made for everybody. The Gemara didn't differentiate between one person. Everybody could become very learned. There's no problem. Okay. Anyway, so now, okay. So communicating. So that's the answer. That's why I stick to the discussion. Get the discussion. So what did the Gemara say? So he said, now, if we said that, what?
Say one thing for a minute?
Not yet. Afterwards you can. Afterwards, because I got it now. Otherwise, I will be late. Okay. Now we have to do it. So he said, what? We have to read it as a run-on. You have to have witnesses who are what? You have witnesses who are not slaves and who are not what? And who are not goyim. Why did you have to teach me both? That the rabbis didn't allow slaves and that the rabbis didn't allow goyim? Because I might have thought, but why do I need both? The Yashmin and Eved, okay, why? How the rabbis told me that they didn't allow slaves. I'd say, we don't allow slaves, even rabbinically, they ain't lo yachas, because they have no lineage. They're really low grade. A slave does not follow the father. We learn it from Abraham. He says what? He says what? They should call him a You slaves, the slaves stay here with the donkey. The animal doesn't go after its father, only after the mother. A slave's out. But we learn from the pasuk of the Nevi'im. We learn that the goyim are attributed to their fathers. Okay, at least according to that pasuk. Ema, okay, Ema Losif, I say what? But goy might say what? He's not out, and you're allowed to have a goy testify because we need an extra rabbinic decree to make the world function. And by Nezikin can happen. Yeshmi and Nached, you told me no, that the rabbis rejected a non-Jew. Why did they reject a non-Jew, even though we need them? Mishum de lo shaykh mitzvahs. Why? Because non-Jews don't have any shaykhs to mitzvahs. Aval Eved, the shaykh mitzvahs, ain't low, but an Eved who has some mitzvahs, the rabbis could say what? Even though he's really not, even though Torah-wise he can't be an aid, but he's good enough. This guy has a great sensitivity. He does mitzvahs. He's somebody, okay, and I might take him low for what? Even there, the rabbis tell me that we don't take him. Remember, a slave who has mitzvahs like a woman, he's a very unique guy. He's not Jewish, but he does mitzvahs. Incredible thing. Okay, now, continuing. Okay, now, by the way, why do we have to make sure that everything is absolutely necessary? Because if we don't know if we understood what the rabbi taught us. Every time something is there, we have to make sure that it's absolutely necessary. Otherwise, why? We're laying sloppily, we'll miss what God said. You have to justify every word. Like we said, women are included in damages. Now, this teaches me that what? That whether a woman does damage or whether a woman is damaged, that she's in the laws of damages. Why? And now Amar Rav, the problem is that our laws, if you look in the Chumash and Shmos, all the parsha of damages is written in the masculine. So how do I know women are included? So we're going to learn from three different places. Amar Ravi said the Chaitan of Shmuel. Also, we learn what in the Yeshiva Shmuel. Amar Kra, the pasuk said what? Isha, kiyas called chatos. A man or a woman will do any one of the averas, they'll get the punishment, etc. We learn. Hishva kasu isha the cholonchin shebatorah. So you see that a woman was compared to a man any place as a punishment, and therefore by definition she's equated to a man by all negative precepts. That's what we learn. Women are obligated to negative precepts. They're not allowed to transgress. Why? Because she's getting punished. She obviously can't. She's not allowed to transgress, and therefore we know that. We know that a woman is obligated just like. So we know a woman is obligated to keep the negatives. And the positives, how come it's not included? Because there's no punishment for positives. There's no court takes you and punishes you for positives. So therefore it's only the negative. The Bei Rabbi Lazar Tana, they learn a different place that women are included. When it spoke about the monetary laws, it says Ve'ela hamishpatim. These are the monetary laws that you place before them, in general, men and women. Ishva, Kasif, Isha, the whole din. So what? So a woman was compared to a man for all monetary laws, Shabbat. So therefore, what we see that she is obligated to be in. She has to keep all the monetary laws just like a man. We learned another one. A third pasuk we learned when it came to what the pasuk says when a shore that was forewarned. gored a man, and behemis ish or isha, and it killed a man or a woman. So then, etc. We do what we do with the ox, and the owner has to pay guilt money. Aye, he says, Ishra Kasu, Isha Isha, a woman was compared to a man, the Holy Torah. Whether when it comes to death, okay, any place where he has to pay the guilt money by a woman if he goes a woman, just like if he pays by a man. Now, we got a problem again, same thing. Why do we need three different sources to get a woman in? The answer is we're going to find this is called the Trichusa, and it's always critical. We make a Trichusa to make sure we know what we're talking about. Why do we need three? The Tricha, we need all three. The Yashmi and Kamaisa, had you told me the first rule that women are included in punishments, in which case they're included in all the negative precepts, you know why she gets to be punished? Because Hashem has mercy on her. It's nice to allow people to be punished. Why? To have it like kapara. Why did Hashem put her in? Because he to get punishments. Because he wants to be nice to her and let her get atonement. But when it comes to business in the standard Jewish world, okay, in the standard Jewish world, women are busy with other things. It's men's job to go out and get all the money. When it comes to men, it's their job what to do business in. So by men, okay, so men need to be involved in the business law. Isha lo, but women don't. She doesn't need the business law because the real job of the woman is to continue the world. She's going to make sure that there are children, that there's education, that there's beauty, that there's shoes, that there's cake, and all the women have to make the world go. So I think not. So the answer is no. Even so, women have to be. We're going to see in a minute. We're going to see the women have to be involved also in the monetary law. We're going to see why in a second. Didn't. And if you tell me what monetary law, I would have thought no. It's only monetary law that women are involved in. Because women have to. A woman sometimes has to make a living. She has to make a living also. So if you don't put her monetary law, then what? If she's not obligated, or people are not obligated to her, then either everybody's going to cheat her because they don't have to deal with her, or she's going to cheat everybody else. So since women have to make a living, Hashem makes it that women are involved in monetary law. Why? So people shouldn't cheat her, and she shouldn't cheat anybody else. Otherwise, nobody's going to want to deal with a woman. Okay? Abel kapara, when it comes to what? To atonement, each of our mitzvah, a man who has what he's really obligated to do mitzvahs in. So you got to worry about giving atonement. He should love bas mitzvah, a woman who, at least quantitatively, is not like a man. She's not involved in mitzvahs to the quantity of a man. Okay, that we won't need to give her atonement. Had you told me both, that what? You had to tell me that by punishment and by monetary law, the woman's in. I'll tell you what, she's into the punishment because she needs to get atonement. And when it comes to monetary law, she has to be monetary law so she can make a living. But when it comes to the ox killing a person, when do you have to pay atonement? When you kill a man who does a lot of mitzvahs, you have to pay atonement. Isha, but a woman who's not involved in is quantitatively involved in mitzvahs. No, you have to understand that this is not. We understand. There's a certain point that a person's it's a privilege. It's a privilege for a person to get to do. It's a privilege to get to mitzvah. Like when a man says Shalom Isha, when you say in the morning that I'm not a woman, listen, I'm thankful for the privilege of being able to do so many mitzvahs. Women do lots of mitzvahs. Don't worry, they'll be fine, and they'll get plenty of olam haba also. But even in this world, even though in the next world they'll be fine, they'll do good. They'll do better. They'll do better. Don't worry, they'll do better. They'll do better. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. In this world, it's still a privilege to do more mitzvah. Now, V'yashmin and Kofar, had you told me that women are that even when you kill a woman, you have to pay the atonement, neshama. Why is that? Because there's a loss of a neshama. It's a big deal. Avahani Tati, these other things, when it comes to just plain monetary law or plain atonement for punishment, atonement in terms of and punishments. Okay, the lekib in the neshama, where there's no loss of life. I would say what? Women are not involved. Therefore, I need all three. Now, we said furthermore, this is a very important point. This is a beautiful example of the Gemara's method of teaching. Hanizik v'masik v'tashlumin. We say in the Mishnah that what? The damagee and the damager are both partners. They both are involved in the payment. Now, that's a very strange thing. Okay, now what's interesting is the Gemara doesn't even bother to discuss it. It immediately goes to Exhibit A. We're really, by virtue of a famous argument, we're going to explain the Mishnah. This is classic. So really, we don't say, what are you talking about? Since when is the damagee paying for damages? Does that make any sense? Damagee's paying for his own damages? The answer is don't wait. He says, stay tuned. Here, we have a very famous argument. With that argument, we're going to understand. We're going to be able to understand. We said, well, Itmar, we learned. Halganiska. Now, this is a very important point I want to explain. The facts, I'll tell you the facts and we'll understand. we've been up until now we've been differentiating. We have always been saying, listen, you know what? We say it's a very normal thing for animals to eat and animals to damage things while they're walking. But we've said Karen is mashuna, that malicious damage by an ox, goring or pushing or kicking, all these things is different. Now, if it was really absolutely out of wild, nobody would pay for it. And if it was absolutely normal, then what? Then you'd always have to pay for it. So we realize that an animal like an ox is kind of a middle category. It's kind of normal and kind of abnormal. Now, and therefore, I don't know what to do. Why? When I look at the rule, we see that the Torah said that an ox that gores pays half damages for the first 3 times. I don't know how to look at it. Is it really kind of abnormal, and he really shouldn't pay, but the Torah wants him to pay anyway? Or is it really what that he should pay? But Hashem says, listen, society has to function. Society has to function. I can't tax people for everything. It's worth it. It's worth it to take a little hit and let society function. And therefore, I'm not going to charge him everything. You understand? So now that's a famous argument. Of Papamar, Itmar, we learned Paganiska when we see that the Torah charged half damages for the first 3 gorings. Of Papamar Mamona, he said that is a monetary payment. In other words, he really owes it. He really owes it, but he's not going to pay the whole thing. Okay, Rav Huna Breda Shuamar Kanasi says no, he really doesn't owe it. It's really a fine. Now, where do they get? Why do they say what they're saying? It's if each of them it's self-evident. I'll explain what I mean. It's very important. But Papa Mamona, why did Papa say it's a true payment that he really owes? Okay, he's really returning what he took away. He's completing the damage. He thinks that the normal ox is not in the status quo of guarding. Really, the normal ox is already dangerous that it's going to gore. And really, by real jurisprudence, he should really be paying 100%. Rahmanahu the Chasile, but it's the Torah that had mercy on the guy. The Chasila Ayaturi. Why? Because his ox wasn't warned yet. Okay, so it's really the truth is he should kind of known, but he really wasn't really expecting it. So it's enough. So the Torah really is really what he should be paying it. He should be paying it, but the Torah give the guy a little leeway. Rav Huna Breda Yeshua says no. Kanasa, he says, no, it's a kanas. He thinks that the average ox is really kicked over to the other way. He's really guarded, okay? And really, by normal jurisprudence thinking, the lo l'shalem kal, he shouldn't pay anything. Rahmanahu, the concept of the Torah find him, even though he doesn't really, by strict letter of the law, he doesn't owe the guy that money. Because they want him to go, at least to go out and to watch his ox. So the point is here, this is famous. Sometimes you have a thing right in the middle, and it's a hair's breadth. It just depends how you look at it. In one respect, you can look at the fact that the Torah obligated him as kicking it over and saying what it's really it's not right. It's not that bad, and he really owes the money. Or no, he really doesn't owe the money, but we're going to do it anyway, and that's a value judgment. Now, what are we going to? We want to use that as Exhibit A. That's not what this Gemara is about. The Gemara is about to explain the Mishnah, but we want to use this argument as a crowbar to explain the Mishnah. Here it comes. Tanan.
Is it all a matter of watching?
I don't know. Oh, that's a big discussion. Now, that's a big discussion for a later time. Tanan, Anizak, that's a big discussion for a later time. Tanan, we learn. Anizak v'amazik b'tashlumin. Now, we learn what? Now, because we want to explain our Mishnah. So since our Mishnah said what? That both the Nizak and the Mazik, the damagee and the damager, are partners. So we say, oh, listen, now it's very good. We can explain our Mishnah beautifully. If you hold half damages is really what? A legal true payment. Okay, what? And he really owes everything, but he's not. Now I can easily read the Mishnah and say that the damagee is really paying. Why? Because he's supposed to pay 100, he pays 50. Who's paying the other 50? The damagee. By not getting it, he's paying. But according to the opinion, what that half damage is really what is a fine. Really, the damager owes nothing. So then, what are you going to say? The damagee is paying the damagee, the 50 that he's getting, he doesn't deserve. Okay, he's taking what doesn't belong to him. Okay, but Tashlumin, you're going to tell me he's paying? The other 50 he's not paying. He didn't deserve the 50 he got. He's not paying the other 50. The answer is lo nitzucha. Okay, says don't worry. Even according to the opinion that it's a fine, I can still explain why the damagee is paying. Why? Because we learned earlier, remember we said there's a bunch of expenses. We said that we have learned that what? That from the moment that the animal is killed or the animal's killed, it's completely the possession of whom? Of the damagee. And whatever expenses are incurred by between the death and the court case, all these things, or any kind of expenses that are incurred are on the back of whom? Of the damagee. So we can say he really is paying. Why is that? Because since he has to pay the expense of the degeneration, so that's considered that he's also paying. No, once the Torah, let me explain. Once the Torah awarded him the 50 for the fine, he's still paying because he has to discount what? His expenses dealing with the corpse. So Gemara says, 1 second. Says that's a very nice point, but I got a problem. According to you, when you said in this Mishnah that he's joining in the payment, you're referring to the expenses of the corpse. He says, Bachas nevela, we already learned it. We already learned it in the Mishnah on Testament days. We already learned it. You already told me before, because you told me before that the extra phrase in summation, that when the damager damages, he has to pay, Tashlumi Nezek has to pay payments of Nezek. You told me then, you already told me that's when the owners, the damagee has to pay for the expenses of the corpse. So you already taught to me once. How can you tell me? Teach you it again now? The says, don't worry. You're right. They taught me twice. There and here. We repeated it. 2 times he taught me that the damagee is responsible for the corpse. And its own way I can defend myself. There's a reason why I have to teach it twice. The Ashmin and Tom, had you told me that the damagee is responsible for the corpse by a non-warned ox, I think you know when the damagee has to pay, because the damager is not so responsible because he wasn't warned yet. Aval muad, but by one that was warned, I'd say there what? No, the damagee doesn't have to pay already. Even that should also go on what? On the damager. The Yashminan muad, had you told me what? That when a warned ox kills, that the damagee has to deal with the corpse. Mishum the Kamashalim Kule is what? Because there, you know why? Still the damager is paying everything. Let the damagee take the other expenses. Aval Tam, but by a non-warned ox, I say since the damager is not paying everything, the damagee is not responsible. Okay, I would say no. Tzricha therefore had to teach me twice. We're in good shape. So now we defended according to both, and we were able to read the Mishnah according to the respective opinions. Either we're talking about the half of the damage, either the damagee is paying the half that the damager is not paying, or the damagee is paying the expenses of the corpse. Toshma. Now that we've mopped up the Mishnah, now we want to get into the fight that we brought up. He said, our half damages are fine, or half damage is really a monetary payment. Okay, so Toshma, come, I'm going to bring you a kasha against the opinion that it's a fine. We're going to learn in the Mishnah coming up, bein tam the muad. What's the difference between a non-warned ox and a warned ox? A non-warned ox pays half damages limited by the value of its body. It pays only half damages up to the value of the body, of the damaging body. Okay, but what muad? Whereas a warned ox, he pays full damages. What? From the general estate, because he has to pay. Remember, because he has to pay meitav. Since he has to pay meitav, he has to pay full damages from the general estate. Being ita now, in second, if it's really true what you're saying, that half damage is a fine, then the Mishnah should have listed this also as this, and listing namiha, then list this difference. Tam ena mashalim al piatzma. Why don't you tell me that a non-warned ox doesn't pay by his own admission because it's a fine, and muad mashalim al piatzma, and the muad pays by his own admission because it's what? Because it's a monetary payment. So it must be what? Since the Mishnah didn't list that difference, that proves that you are wrong. The Gemara says, don't worry. Our classic answer. Tana, he says no. Tana Bashir, he did teach a list, but he didn't put everything on the list. Now remember, I said to you earlier, we have a rule. The Tana is not allowed to write in an irresponsible fashion. You can't be sloppy. The worst crime you can do in Torah is to be a slob. If you do your business like a professional, then a million times more you should learn Torah. People who are professional in business and sloppy in Torah are bums. A bum. A person who's careful in his business and not careful in his learning is a bum. He's a bum. For the most important thing in the world, for the very life and our breath, for our existence in this universe, you're going to be a slob? People should be 10 times more professional in their learning than they should be in their business. The opposite way. So over here, what? So the Tana can't be sloppy. If the Tana decides to leave something out, he can't do it. Why? Because if I see it, I'm not going to know if I'm right. He's wrong. I made a mistake. He disagrees with me. I don't know what's going on. So the Tana has to do me a favor. Many years ago, I came to Florida for my wedding. So I was at a house of very, very wealthy people, like out of the storybooks. And they ate at a table like 3 miles long. There's the husband and wife all the way down there, and me up here at a Shabbos table. And the table was set for a king. I'm telling you, I'm not exaggerating. I think there were 30 pieces of silverware at my setting. I'm 5 forks, 6 spoons, 8 knives. I know what's going on, And he's all the way down there with his wife. And they're wonderful, very wonderful people, mamas, righteous people, but very fancy. No, after about the 3rd course, I have no idea what I'm doing with the silverware over here. I don't know what's going on over here. So the guy, his wife is looking away. And the guy quickly grabs the right thing and flashes to me, shows me like this with a big smile, and quickly puts it down before his wife sees. So I shouldn't be embarrassed that I used the right thing. The Tana is a big mensch. The Tana is not going to leave me in that quandary. If he's going to leave one out, he's always going to what? Leave another one out. So I'll know that he meant to leave the first one out. So I say to you, 1 second, buddy, if you want to say to me you want to tell me that even though it's a knas, he left it out, you better bring me another one he also left out. Otherwise, we're going to say against it. He says, don't worry. He says, pardon me. So what are you going to do? Okay, so we're going to say, if that's true, my share, the share. So 1 second, to defend yourself, if you're going to say you left out the difference of half damages, don't pay by their own admission because they're a knas, like you say, what else did he leave out? He says, don't worry, shear, chatzi kofer. He left out what paying half damages. That what? Half of the guilt money, half of the atonement money. That even though the animal killed somebody, he doesn't pay half the guilt money to the inheritance. But no, so that's also different left out. The half kofer. Where I said, what? Now I haven't. Now this part's very hard, but we're going to answer. The next line is very difficult to understand what it's doing. So he answers. He says, listen. He answers. Now I got a problem. Now the very attack that the guy who believes that it's mammon made in the one who believes that he's a knas goes back on himself. 1 second. He says, wait a second. He says, because then 1 second. What are you going to do according to the opinion that what do you do according to the opinion that it's money? So then half of the he's gonna 1 second. How come he left out paying up half of atonement? According to you now, how come he left it out? Why do they leave half of atonement? He says, Mishum Chetzi Kofer. Says no, even the guy who holds money can answer you. If it's because of half atonement, lav shira, that's not leaving out at all. Why? It wasn't left out because you know why? Because it's not true. Mani Rabbi Yosef Lili. You have to say if the mission is according to Rabbi Yosef Lili, the Amar Tamish on Chetzi Kofer. Because the truth is, pardon me, why'd you leave out that he doesn't pay? I'm sorry. Why'd you leave out that he doesn't pay half damages? The answer is because Rabbi Yosef Lili holds that he does pay half damages. Therefore, even according to the guy, it's mammon. It's not left out because it's no difference. Because both Tom and Muad pay kofer. This one pays half and one pays whole. Good. Okay, now everybody's in good shape. Toshma, again, I want to attack the position that the half damages are a fine. Okay, he says, hey me shori esploni. He says, if a guy came and he admitted by himself, okay, he says, this is his own admission. We learn. A guy says, Mishnah, he says, my ox killed Mr. X. Oh, sure, my ox killed the ox of Mr. X. Well, he pays by his own admission. You see what? He has to pay by his own admission. My lav batam. So what is it? Okay, so isn't that talking about a non-ward ox? And you see what if he's paying? So he's paying half damages by his own admission. So you see a proof against you. Then what? Or kasha to you? How can you tell me that it's a fine? It says lo, the muad. It's talking about a muad. Mara says, 1 second. You tell me he's talking about a muad, but by a time he doesn't pay by himself. Okay, that's what you want to tell me what it means to say by a non-ward ox, he doesn't pay by himself. He says it can't be true what you're saying. Why? Because the continuation of the Mishnah belies what you're saying. Why? According to you, if it's really true, that you don't pay half damages by yourself, you don't pay by your own admission. Later on, it says he says my ox killed the slave of Mr. X, and a mashalim al piatzmo. Okay, He doesn't pay by on his own admission. Why? Because since the fine is 30, it's a set price. Every fine is a set price is a fine. So he doesn't pay the fine. Now, I want to explain you a principle. There's a very important principle throughout the Talmud. It's called liflog v'lisni b'didah. We have an idea like this. If a Mishnah or Tana goes from one case to another case to teach a principle, when he could have taught the principle in the first case, we find the Mishnah difficult. Listen again what I'm saying. If you had to go to a brand new case to teach me a principle, it means that you couldn't teach it in the original case. That you couldn't teach it. Again, if a Tana goes to a new case to teach a principle, it means that he couldn't teach the principle in the first case. Now, he says, according to me, this Mishnah is fine. Why? According to me, this Mishnah is fine. Because according to me, a Tom pays half damages on its own admission, right? So when you wanted to teach me that you don't pay on your own admission, you had to go to a new case of a true fine, which is what? Paying 30 for killing a slave. But according to you, since without killing a slave, even by a normal case of damage, okay, you don't pay on your own admission. It doesn't make sense because the Mishnah never had to move to a new case of slave to teach the principle of not paying by your own admission. It could have told me when an ox that was not muad damaged that you don't pay your own admission. So it should have said what? It should have said, when you pay by your own admission when it's a warned ox, or when it's a not warned ox in the same case, you don't pay your own admission because the half damages are fine. Since it didn't do that, you see you're wrong. And I'm right. Let's read the words inside. He says, look, that's what he says. Liflog v'lisnei b'didei. It should have taught it in the original case. Instead of going to the case of a slave, it should have said, when is it that you pay full damages by your own admission? Okay, b'muad, okay, where what? By a warned ox. But the Mishnah would have continued and said what? Aval b'tam, the Mishnah should have continued and said, but by a non-warned ox, he doesn't pay by himself. So since it didn't do that, and we have a rule that the Tana doesn't change the venue unless he has to, and since he changed to a slave to teach the din of not paying by yourself, he couldn't do it by an ox, you're out. He says, no. He says, no, I'm not out. He says, why? Kula b'muad kamayim. You're making a mistake because the Mishnah is not really about paying by yourself. The real focus of the Mishnah, the categorization was really about what? It was about the idea of Tam and Muad. And it didn't want to focus on that. And therefore it didn't really, it only wanted to teach me about it really wanted to teach me about what? About the ox that's a Muad, and it didn't want to talk about an ox that wasn't a Muad. Toshma, okay? Again, I'm going to try and bring you again a kasha. They're trying to knock him out. I want to be again a kasha against you that says that half damages are fine. Since we learned what we learned earlier, the summation of the Mishnah, Zaklal is the general rule. Anybody who pays more than what he damaged, in other words, what not commensurate, he doesn't pay by his own admission. Now let's make an inference. Remember, I told you inferences are a not mathematical story. My lobby says, isn't the inference what's the inference? If you don't pay by yourself when you paid more, isn't the inference what that when you pay less, okay, that you do pay on your own admission, which proves that what? That it's not a fine. Now what? Now this is not a mathematical game, and that's why they throw them out. Every one of these inferences is always thrown out because it's not mathematical what he's doing. He said, he said, what? Whenever you pay more, you don't pay on your own. So he said, when you pay less, you do pay. Nah, that's not what it means at all. That doesn't disprove me. No, that's not the right inference. The inference is, the inference is, when you pay more than you're supposed to, you don't pay on your own. When you pay the amount you're supposed to, you do pay. And of course, it's also true that when you pay less, you also pay by your own admission. Okay? You don't pay. So then what, according to you, even though it said when you pay more, you don't pay by yourself, it means really when it's less. What's also you also don't pay? He says, if that's true, he says, if it's really true that, like you're saying, is adatani zaklal, and this is the killer. He says, since it said what you told me a rule called anybody who pays more than he's damaging, he doesn't pay by himself. It was a bad choice. Why? Because if you have no choice, okay, you can let me have to figure it out. But when you have a choice to use the best language, he says, "Lisli zaklal learn this rule. This is the rule. Kol she'ena mashalim k'ma she'ezik. You should have said it simply. Anybody who doesn't pay exactly what he damaged, okay, doesn't pay by himself. The mashma pachas or mashma yosef, which tells me what that whether it's more or less that you don't pay by yourself. To Yufta, that is indeed, even though it doesn't prove the point, but the Gemara considers it utterly compelling, we'll consider that a knockout. Nevertheless, the Gemara says what? The Gemara says, nevertheless, what the halacha is, halganiska knasa. The half damage is really a fine. Now that's shocking. You just told me what? We just knocked out the opinion, and it's still the halacha? Whoa! Why? Because I told you, because it's not necessarily true, it's just compelling. Why? To Yufta, the Helchasa? You want to tell me you had a knockout kasha, and you still the halacha follows that opinion? Okay, yes, I can still do it. Why? Time am I? What's the reason that you considered it a knockout blow? Mishum de lo kotani, mishum k'moshe hizik. Well, because it didn't say. You should have said what? Whenever you pay like you whenever you pay like you damage, you pay by your own admission. Lo psikale, because it's not true. It's not. It's not necessary. It's not 100% true that whenever you that only when you pay like you damaged. Do you pay by yourself? Because there's a case that even though you don't pay the way you damaged, i.e., you pay less, you still pay by your own admission. Why? Because there's a case where you don't pay what you damaged and it's not considered a fine. Because we have this is a wild card. We have a tradition from Sinai that the stones and clods that are kicked up by the animal in the process of walking pays half damages, but it's not considered a fine. The Ilchos Gemiri law. That is a handed down tradition. According to Rashi, it's handed down tradition that it's not a fine, and but it's real money. The mamona. It's handed now. Other Rishonim argue and say Rashi is wrong. But Rashi says the tradition itself told me that it's considered a commensurate payment. And that's the reason it didn't write it. And since your whole proof was based on an inference, any reasonable explanation otherwise can remove you. And that's very important. I'll elaborate on this in our other classes. Remember. Inferences, and I'll repeat it many times, inferences on words or word order are not compelling. Only inferences on subject and predicates. Later, I'll be happy to elaborate on these points. We'll learn these things. Both say you learn the rules, you can conquer everything. Okay, now, now that you've concluded after all this mighty battle, now what, the half damages are a fine, I have a problem. Why is that? Because remember we mentioned yesterday that a beis din, in order to collect fines, has to be people who are experienced in the law and also who have ordination. And we have a rule that we don't ordain the beis din outside of Eretz Yisrael, and therefore they can't collect fines. Now, one second, if they're ordained, how do they do any monetary law? The answer is that the rabbis in Eretz Yisrael, the first court really made all the courts outside of Eretz Yisrael to be their proxies to judge monetary law. So we're allowed to judge monetary law as the agents of the original rabbis in Eretz Yisrael, but they didn't give us the right to do it by fines. They gave us the right to do it by other laws, but not by fines. So now that I know that you can't collect fines outside of Eretz Yisrael, now you told me that the half damages of an ox goring are a fine, which means we can't collect it. What happens when an animal does damage like goring outside of Israel? So we learned high kabbalah chalimri. For example, a dog ate sheep. That's abnormal for a dog. It's the same thing as goring. It's not called eating, it's called goring. Or a cat ate chickens. Okay, okay, that's considered strange, and it has the law of goring. Okay, and it pays half damages the first 3 times. And if we want, okay, so therefore, according to what you said now, we can't collect it in bubble because we're not allowed to collect fines. Okay, but when do we say that it's a fine? Only baravare, only the dog ate big sheep, or the cat ate big chickens. Okay, if they're small, then that's normal, and that's the normal damage of what? Of eating. Okay, and that we can collect even in bubble. Now, one more. Even when we said that you can't collect fines in bubble, nevertheless, there's another rule. He taught us if the damagee, even though the basin is not allowed to collect the fine, the damagee went himself and he grabbed the property of the damager to pay himself back for the fine that was owed to him. We the basin do not take it away from him. And not only that, furthermore, if the damagee comes to court, we say, sorry, we can't judge fines in our court. And he says, okay, kabali zimna Israel, set me a time, make me an appointment in Eretz Israel, me and the damager will go. Conveniently, we make an appointment for them in Eretz Israel, and the damager has to go. If the damager refuses to go to Eretz Israel, we excommunicate him. And not only that, forget about whether he goes to Eretz Israel or not. Even though we can't collect the money from him, no matter what happens, going there to Israel or not, we excommunicate the damager the Masalik Kazik until he removes the damager. You cannot have a dangerous animal around your property. Like we learned. The Tanya Rabbi Nassan Omer, Rabbi Nassan taught us. How do we know that a person shouldn't raise a vicious dog in his house? And a person can't keep a bad ladder in his house. Now, even though we learn from the law of a parapet, of putting a fence around your roof, that you can't have something dangerous for people in your house, okay? So really, it would be okay to have a bad ladder in your house or a dangerous dog. Why? Because the dog knows the people in the house, and the people in the house are familiar with the ladder. So as far as the law of parapet, maybe you'd be allowed, at first glance, you'd be allowed to have these things in the house. But since there's an extra language, and the pasuk said, in addition, it said, Lo sami b'dami beisecha, no matter what, don't put blood in your house, don't do it. Okay, therefore, what we know that even when it's not dangerous to the household, if it's dangerous to other people, you can't do it. Therefore, you can't have it, even though you like the dog doesn't like, you can't have a dog, it's bad for other people. Even though you're fine with the ladder, it's not good for other people. You're not allowed to have it in your house. And therefore, we excommunicate the guy till he gets rid of the damaging animal. We'll call that a daf, and we'll have to continue on Shabbos. Everyone, a wonderful day and a wonderful Shabbos. 125. So the simple rule, you're really only allowed to have dangerous things on the svar. When you're on the frontier, you can have. All right, hey. Oh wait, I'll get some tissue.
Shimon, are those for glasses on the floor? Right here.
Yes, and thank you.
Oh no, it's 7. I don't know. It's either 6 or 7. Oh no, it's 6.
Not bad.
When I'll call you, let you know.
If you follow the argument, you get everything else straight. Otherwise you call and say, it's okay, take the count. Then you come back the next day and say, okay, the count keep yeah. You tell what you want to ask.
10 hours. That's not bad. They left at 9 at night. Got there at 7 in the morning. Yeah, that's not bad. That's actually good. Yeah, except on the way back. The border. Okay, maybe.
When we learn out that the Damaji gets the carcass.
Amasielo, the pasuk, Amasielo. We learned it earlier, a few days ago. Amasielo. It says Amasielo. The corpse will be his.
Is that all the time?
I don't. What do you mean?
20 minutes to 3. By all damaging, gets
Back on the bus. 20 minutes to 3.
gets the carcass.
I maybe have to. I'm not sure. I have to think. I'll think about it.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. What happened before?
Well, my son had the same. They chartered a plane. They flew to Washington, and they arranged with a bus company to pick them up. When the bus drivers heard that these are Jews going to this rally, they went on strike.
No, they got sick.
These people were stuck in the airport for 11 hours.
This would never happen to anybody else.
That would happen to blacks.
Are you kidding? The blacks?
Yes. But in any event, they have one hell of a lawsuit against the bus.
Yeah, I gotta get it good.
They should cover the cost of
What we
it.
gotta
Why?
do is always sue. Get guns and.
So what was your question, Heshie?
I don't remember.
So obviously Western Court.
I was just telling somebody that I did not really start learning Gemara seriously till I was in college. And it was in Israel. There was a professor, Yona Frankel, at Hebrew University. And for the first half of the school year,
Some very
he
rare.
required that we make an outline of every page of Gemara that we did to show
That's the only.
is this
exception.
what this
Wait,
is
what-
what this is exactly.
You know what's methodology?
Yes, that was
History
because of the special
they know.
And what happened here was something she got caught up in the
And
content.
whenever one.
You don't see the forest in the trees. You know what's going on?
Normal. A woman normally can't have. Because it's not, because that's the halacha, that's.
Was Cheryl pleased with the turnout from Tuesday?
I've been working very hard for 55 years. But he was
Very satisfied.
a number of people. They spoke for 1 o'clock. We got back at 12 o'clock, and there's a couple people that I've never seen before. They're sitting down writing letters on their own.
And plus, somebody else was describing it as a watch party. But the concept was the fact that people gathered and watched it together also,
Allowed
you know,
now.
as well as doing
Every time
Except
you
that-
go, your wife testifies,
We want to go, but we can't. So we should be doing
every
something.
time you
that
have.
was, and I think it,
Yeah.
So a woman.
it was really a very worthwhile because even, other people said, well, I watched it at home, or, I understand. But there was a sense of, still a sense of community and hospital, which was very important.
Yeah, that's somewhere, yeah. 20 years ago, I went.
Oh, I'm sure.
But yeah, sometimes you get into the bus, when you get back on the bus, you can't sit there. I spoke to one person, and her cousin, she said she threw her coat on the ground, she sat on the ground, people just kept walking around.
Josh Sanborn told me he was fortunate
Yeah.
to find a seat, but he wound up sitting in the sun for 3 hours.
Okay, Sunday, 2 hours of
Actually, don't take that as an insult. Okay? Yeah, and he wanted. I'm gonna have to know how to say it. Well, I spoke to him. They have different styles. He hasn't volunteered to do it. I mean, he volunteered for me because good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, Bruce. Bruce, would it be possible for Sunday morning to have just a single table out by the, in front of the,
Yeah, we're gonna have something?
yeah, just because it's
The kids do it, huh?
Imagine
a little chicken, just a little,
chicken.
you know, just one
One table,
tablecloth,
you don't want,
one long table.
yeah, we already have one. Yeah, for the coffee.
No, it's just gonna be, I'm gonna put out some juice and cake and liquor and
You know, probably for.
for family.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Over here though, it's not sort of here. People like. Much knowledge was given that you could.
Angie, I'm gonna shoot you an email later. All right,
Well, much, yeah, all the days, you had these big things with the dates and the name, we kept every year. Then you put them out, we put it out. Everybody. That was just us. Yeah,
that was an area a little bit more well-established congregation in the sense that you had the same crew coming, you know, all the time. So people knew. Yeah, yeah. Thank you.